there was a lot of talk in all these protests about defunding the police. And honest to goodness, you know, I think sometimes you read these things, you think, okay, well, this is kind of the crazy leftists. This is the extreme. This is the 2%, the Occupy Wall Street, the Antifa crowd. But actually, it's happening. It's happening. In Minneapolis, where I've mentioned to you many times, I have, you know, tugs at my heartstrings. My dad grew up there in Minneapolis. We've been there. I've been there dozens of times in my life. Was a really lovely, cool city, and it has been completely overtaken by radical leftism. The Minneapolis City Council has moved to defund police, and now they have a growing homeless area in some park there. I didn't recognize the name of the park, but where they're causing trouble. But you know, who do you call? It's like you're going to call the local social worker. So you have defund police, massive problem in Minneapolis, but in New York City this morning, New York City. Big city, densely populated. You had Mayor de Blasio announcing the decision of the city council. They are going to reallocate $1 billion, B as in boy, $1 billion from the New York Police Department budget to youth and community services. So I want to tell you, New York City cleaned up during the era when Rudy Giuliani was mayor, really cleaned up. You know, just they had the, you know, the broken window concept, which is we're not going to wait until a person commits a series of low-level crimes, and then they commit a big crime, and then we arrest them for the first time. We lay the law down now. We're not going to have you can't be flinging rocks at windows and breaking windows. You just can't get started down the life of crime. So New York cleaned itself up under Mayor de Blasio, the radical leftist, just insane radical leftist, has agreed with the Black Lives Matter demand to defund the police. I want to tell you that in New York City, which everyone understands, there are areas, you know, in every big city, there are areas where the crime is more common and other areas considered relatively safe. But in New York City, if you defund the police department, in a city of that size, you're destroying morale. The police are recognizing, hey, you know, there aren't enough of us. They're also talking about cutting out overtime. They've got all sorts of other things they're trying to do in this. They're trying to cut $1 billion in labor costs. So anyway, this is what they're doing. And I want to tell you what's going to happen in New York City. It's a level of crazy you can't even believe. Number one, the law-abiding will leave. Crime kicks up. It's happening in Dallas. We have an increasing problem here in Dallas. Nothing like New York City. And people are talking about getting out of Dallas County. We have a district attorney in Dallas County who said, hey, you know what? If you steal things, we're not going to arrest you. You just steal things. I mean, as long as it's not worth more than $750, hey, you know what? No problem. So crime is on the uptick here. Violent crime has become more of a problem in Dallas than it has been in the past. So, but back to New York City. The law-abiding will leave. The law breakers, the criminals, will accelerate. They're not worried. The police aren't going to be around. There won't be enough police around. You're also going to have the problem of defunding the police is that the entire equation is wrong. The equation you're saying was, well, we have a lot of crime, and we have police brutality, and we have some instances like everyone, Starr made reference to, we talked about in the show before, obviously, what happened in Minneapolis with the officer with his knee on the neck of George Floyd. Horrible incident. Everybody of every political background, racial background, everyone understood that was a horrible incident. They are prosecuting that police officer and the other officers who stood around watching. They're prosecuting that. No one was arguing this is good police procedure. No one was arguing that. If you watched our show a few weeks ago, we had Officer Brandon Tatum talking about a lot of the reforms that the left is demanding are reforms police are already doing. So that no one in the police world is saying, yeah, that was a great thing that officer did in Minneapolis. But back to New York City, the law breakers will accelerate. The law abiding, who are also the tax paying, they're going to move out. They're not going to just stay in a city where they can't get police protection. So the tax base will go down because people who earn money and want to live in safety are not going to hang around New York City as they let the entire city collapse without sufficient policing. And I'll tell you the real problem, or one of the real significant issues that relates to this whole community policing idea. community policing is one issue where you might say, you know, in domestic violence situations, maybe instead of just police officers trying to break it up, you want to have police officers refer to someone who's a social worker or a marriage counselor, someone who's trained to help in these situations of domestic violence. That's a great idea. Go for it. Great idea. No one's saying that's a bad thing. But that's was already happening, is happening more. But here's the thing. If you're going to take $1 billion out of the New York City Police Department budget and put it over in community programs, midnight basketball leagues, the other suggestions they had, things like find jobs for kids in the summer. They just need jobs. If they all had jobs, they wouldn't be committing crime. Not so sure about that, because the real kinds of problems that lead to the massive crime problem in New York City are things that a budget in the police department, a shift in the budget in the police department cannot change. These are the kind of things Star Parker talks about in her group, Urban Cure, that what you really need for young people growing up, especially without a lot of income, you need to have two-parent families, intact families. So you have a dad and a mom actually helping a child understand right from wrong. You have a role model of one or both parents going to work, making clear this is what you do in life. You have to go to work and earn a salary and come home, and that's how you can pay the bills and what your expectation is of your life. Nothing about midnight basketball leagues or finding jobs for kids who are otherwise in the streets is going to cure the real issues that are eating away at the fabric of low-income families in New York City. It is a false promise for de Blasio, for the leftists to be claiming that what we're going to end up doing is having the problem solved of police brutality because we're going to have midnight basketball league. Just a, the intact family issue, the role models, the quality schools, the kind of issues, again, Star Parker pushes that. We have to get quality schools available for kids in low-income areas so they're not stuck in the zip code mandated school that doesn't do them any good, that doesn't help them. These are the kind of things that actually solve the problems. Shifting money in a budget and finding other way and reducing the police presence in the largest city in America, not going to go well. And actually, I'll tell you the other thing that is going to end up happening of all this, which is that you're going to find that people may be sympathetic to the Democrat Party, may be sympathetic to the way leftists see things, are going to say, wait a minute, what the left in the country stands for today, what the Democrats stand for, is just getting rid of policing, just letting, the community handle things, decide what they think ought to be done. It's a very, very dangerous thing, very, very dangerous time, crazy, crazy time. Matt the Wonderful, I sent you a tweet. This is not the one. I have a couple tweets I sent, or maybe three. But there was one that was from, in New York City, it was from someone who was commenting on the commitment to shift the $1 billion budget from the police over to youth services. I don't know if you have that one, Matt the Wonderful. Okay, I want to point out how extreme the left has become. So here they have prevailed on New York City to say cut the budget, and they're still complaining about the budget wasn't cut enough. This is the Office of the Public Advocate Journal. I don't know how to say this woman's name, Jumaine D. But she's saying that she's watching a budget vote, and she's still saying she wants more and more things cut from the police department. Not happy with $1 billion cut. She's a community advocate. Wants to be able to tell the budget people in New York City and the police in New York City how they get to spend their money. Very, very dangerous, kind of emboldening of just kind of a notion that, yeah, we're going to let the community advocates tell us how we police in this country. I'm not saying police are perfect. I know police have to sometimes, we have to have retraining, we have to fire people, we have to prosecute officers sometimes. But you can't demoralize a police department, cut their budget, demand all sorts of changes from them, and expect them to continue the robust law enforcement you need when you're in New York City. So de Blasio, in my impression, just has, he has emboldened the Trump agenda. He has emboldened people in New York City to vote for Donald Trump, because you can't have the crazy of de Blasio and the Democrats destroying the police.